Hello everyone, this is Mr. Brain Junkie here, and today we're going to be talking about a superhero film called Psychokinesis. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. Rumi is the young owner of a fried chicken restaurant. Instead of going to university, she works at her shop to support her mother. Their lives became hard ever since Rumi's father had left them with nothing. The mother says that she was forced to sell hair clippers in the subway when Rumi was growing up. During one night, while Rumi is sleeping in her store, a crowd of men wearing construction hats tries to barge into the restaurant's front windows. She immediately wakes up and calls her friend, but he tells her that they have gotten to other shops already, and that he will come to help her soon. The men begin breaking everything, and Rumi tries her best to stop them. They toss her outside the restaurant while she yells and struggles. Her mother arrives to help her daughter with little success. She drives her van towards them, but crashes soon after. The man drags her outside, but accidentally drops her head on the curb. Rumi runs to help her mother, but finds that she's no longer breathing. Her friends arrive at the scene, only to witness the tragedy that has already happened. They quickly bring her to the emergency room and waits anxiously, but a loud beep confirms the mother's time of death. Before she died, a tear rolled down her mother's eye, and coincidentally, a meteorite crashes nearby. Its shell opens and the liquid drips into the ground and the water system, eventually arriving onto a man's water cup. He drinks the water and feels something weird. He tries to tell everyone that the water is polluted, but no one seems to listen. The man's name is Hyun. He works as a security guard in a building and constantly steals from the company. But seriously, do you really need to steal toilet paper? I thought COVID didn't happen back then. Anyways, he flirts and gives some of the stolen stuff to the cleaning lady, but gets her into trouble as a result. He goes drinking later that night and feels a sharp pain in his stomach. He struggles with the pain and accidentally moves the tables with his newfound powers, but he does not seem to be aware of it. He goes home to sleep, and when he tries to reach for the cigarette lighter, it flew into his hand at will. Before he can make sense of everything, he receives a call from his daughter, who tells him that her mother has died. Hyun arrives at the funeral, and he almost didn't recognize his daughter. They sit down and tries to talk, but their relationship is obviously very strained. The group responsible for Rumi's mother's death comes to pay their condolences. Rumi furiously tells them to leave. Just before a fight can break out, Rumi's boyfriend shows up and stops the two parties, stating that everything should be done according to law. They offer Rumi cash, but she throws it back at them in anger. The boyfriend introduces himself to the father and brings him to the restaurant and explains the politics of the situation. A large company is trying to rebuild this area and has acquired the permits to evict all the tenants. This means many of them will lose their livelihood, and they refuse to leave without proper compensation. The thugs, led by their boss, Mr. Ming, was hired to evict all the people by force. Hyun asks the boyfriend why he's helping them and what his relationship is with Rumi. He stutters and says that they're only friends. Hyun tells him not to lead her on unless he's sure about their relationship and leaves. Hyun walks home reminiscing about his daughter and in a fit of rage throws his fist in the air, which resulted in the nearby objects flying into the same direction. He runs home quickly and tries to use his powers, and he manages to levitate numerous items at will. He goes to work early the next morning, asking his boss about how much a magician can make. The answer was quite a bit more than he was expecting. Rumi and the store owners pays their respect to Rumi's mother, and they meet up in the barricaded mall, where they decide to hold out against the eviction. Hyun speaks against such action for the safety of his daughter. He also thinks that their efforts are futile against such large company. The people become angry with what he said and his daughter tells him to leave. Hyun goes to a show production and convinces the boss to hire him as a magician. He tries to call Rumi for the good news, but she never picks up. He goes back to the plaza where he tells Rumi to speak alone. He tries to show his power to his daughter multiple times, but she was never impressed. She becomes angry and frustrated at her father and blames him for leaving them in such precarious situation. Hyun explains that he had no choice because he owed a large debt and did not want his family to suffer because of it. Rumi tells her father to leave and blames him for being a coward and never fighting for his family. As Hyun walks down the street, he sees multiple cars heading towards the plaza and he knows something is wrong. He quickly runs back and finds the thugs fighting with the store owners. He accidentally uses his power to defeat the men rushing towards him. He then goes on to dismantle many of the thugs by throwing them left and right. The funniest part is when he grabs onto one of the men and makes him dance as if he was in a circus. Mr. Min's right-hand man takes this moment to record Hyun using his powers. Soon, the police shows up and Hyun is forced to hide his powers right away. They are all escorted to the police station, and Mr. Min tries to show the officer their footage. But funny enough, due to Hyun's abilities, the footage looks like the thugs were faking everything. The officer has no choice but to tell both sides to leave. At nighttime, Hyun brings a ton of scrap metal to barricade the entrance. He places all the metals in front of the street so that the thugs cannot get in. But my gosh, the way he uses his power, it's a little hard to take him seriously. His display even scared the boyfriend a little as he stares at what his potential father-in-law is doing with his hip. Some of Mr. Ming's thugs are too afraid to continue with the eviction and are asking to resign. He also gets a phone call for meeting with the company's director. Rumi becomes more accepting of his father after seeing how her friends view him as a hero. They sit down to have some lunch and she shows her care for Hyun's health while using his power, but Hyun assures her that he feels just fine. Mr. Min meets with the company director at lunch. To their surprise, she's a beautiful woman. What they didn't expect was to get beat up right away and have their voices recorded as insurance before they can even touch the food on the table. She gives Mr. Min 48 hours to evict the tenants and comes up with a plan to make this happen. A couple of police officers arrive to arrest Hyun for stealing candies from his security job. They handcuffed him and brings him to the police station. Rumi's boyfriend receives a phone call about a man who turned himself in for murdering Rumi's mother, which was planned by the director as a scapegoat. The boyfriend arrives at Mr. Min's office only to find everything gone. They closed down their original company and opened a new one to avoid the negative stigma around Rumi's mother. He caused Rumi to run as they have clearly lost the battle. The director visits Hyun in the police station and offers him two options. One, they can fend for themselves as convicts, or two, they can work for her company and cooperate in the eviction. She leaves him with a business card to think it over. An army of police officers arrive with excavators and bulldozers to take down the barricades of the plaza. The store owners use Molotov cocktails to ward off the invasion, but with little effect. Mr. Kim is trapped under a fallen structure in all this chaos, and Rumi tries to help him. Both barely escapes death when the bombs were ignited by accident. The boyfriend calls Rumi and tells them to head to the rooftop and escape to a neighboring building. While in the holding cell, Hyun steals one of the police officers' phone and sees the news. After realizing his daughter is in danger, he breaks open the cell doors and flies outside. He crushes the director's car and flies towards the plaza. Hyun has some trouble controlling his power and causes a lot of damage to the city while rushing towards his daughter. He breaks buildings, cars, and scares a lot of people in the process. As the store owners rush towards the rooftop, Mr. Kim is pushed to the edge of a railing. Just before he falls to his death, Hyun manages to catch him and carries him to safety. He then rushes into a building full of police and throws them around like rag dolls. The last guy standing begged for mercy as he didn't think his salary was worth the beating. The police arrives at the rooftop and captures Rumi, while they beat up everyone with their batons. Hyun arrives and continues to manhandle all the bad guys. The container carrying Rumi gets knocked over in the chaos and she nearly falls to her death. Hyun sees this and pulls the crate towards the rooftop. She trips and falls, but Hyun manages to catch her in the last minute. Hyun puts his daughter on the rooftop and says goodbye to her. He flies off to the police officers to turn himself in, but before he gets handcuffed, he knocks Mr. Min unconscious in a glorious fashion. 4 years later, Hyun leaves the prison and is picked up by Rumi's boyfriend. He tells him that they're getting married very soon. The plaza was taken down, but it never began construction due to the inflated price and corruption of the company. They arrive at Rumi's new shop with many customers. She sees her father and after a moment of hesitation, she welcomes him warmly by telling him to help her out with the waitressing. Hyun uses his power to levitate the beers to the customers and screams that he still got it. We see at the last moment that Rumi named this new shop under her father. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my video, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.